guys, so today I'm going to be doing my book talk for Second Chance Summer by Matson, and I'm very excited to do so. I just finished this book this morning, and a lot of you guys asked if I would be doing a book talk, and I said yes, of course, because I have so much to say about this book. I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm so happy to be talking to you guys about it. If you've not read it, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a spoiler-free synopsis, so let's go. This book follows a young girl named Taylor Edwards, and for as long as Taylor can remember, she's always had a tendency to run away from her problems, but when her father receives life-changing, terrible news, she realizes that this is probably something she's not going to be able to run away from. Taylor's parents decide that they all need to spend one last summer together, so in an effort to do so, they're all going down to the summer lake house in Poncos that Taylor has not been to in 5 years, but her parents are like, oh no, we'll have a great time, it's gonna do everybody some good. But Taylor hasn't been there since she was 12 years old, and she left everything behind, like her ex-best friend who's still mad at her, and her ex-boyfriend who's still mad at her for things that she did when she was 12. And she has to deal with the aftermath of returning to the Poncos and spending her summer there. This book just follows Taylor and her summer and trying to get all of the second chances that she can, and it is an amazing book. This is the epitome of a beach read, but it's also pretty sad, so there's that. It kind of unbalances the whole beachy read light thing because it's not a light book at all. It's actually a really deep, meaningful book, and I just loved it so much. This book does a great job of just encompassing what it is like to be a teenager during the summer, and it was super relatable in that sense because I'm a teenager, and I really appreciated that. The book can be read during the summer and you're like, yes, that's what I'm experiencing right now. Or somebody could be reading it during the winter and saying, you know, that's gonna be me in 6 months. It's just so relatable. I feel like everybody could take something from this book and be like, oh yeah, that's relatable to me, or oh yeah, that's relatable to me. There's so much going on in this book that there has to be something for you. I really didn't know that this was gonna be such a sad book, and this is Matson's second novel. I read Amy and Roger's Epic Detour and Since You've Been Gone before reading this bad boy. I still have not read The Unexpected Everything, which I will be soon, but this, as of right now, is my favorite Matson book, and I didn't know going into it that it was going to be so devastatingly sad, so there's a warning for you, but it wasn't even bad. I didn't even hate the fact that it literally made me bawl my eyes out this morning. I was fine because I loved the book so much. This book just really has that summery beachy vibe that you get when you read a Jenny Han book or a Sarah Dessen book. It has that same feeling, and I absolutely loved it for that. I know a lot of you guys are trying to get some good summery contemporary beach reads to read, and I mean, I wouldn't recommend reading this on a beach unless you want to cry in front of a bunch of strangers, but it's a great book to read, you know, at your home's pool or inside your air-conditioned house. I recommend it for the summertime, just maybe in a private area because you're probably gonna cry. You will probably cry. You're not a crier when you read, you'll probably cry. Overall, I just really want to stress the fact that I highly recommend this book, even if it's sad, even if it's this or that. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend Matson's books in general. She's the queen of a perfect summer contemporary read. So for those of you that have not read this book, I just highly recommend it. I can't tell you enough how much I want you to go pick up this book. So go ahead and do so, and when you do, you can come back and watch the spoiler section. But for now, I'm going to be saying goodbye to non-spoiler people, and we're going to be talking about some details. I just have to start off by saying that this book really got to me, and I didn't expect it to. Even when I started reading and we find out about her dad and his cancer and how it's terminal and he's going to be dying in a couple of months, I couldn't relate to that because I've never had that type of experience happen in my life. I've never really lost a close family member either, so I didn't expect to feel such a deep connection to the story as much as I did. I felt so deeply connected to the book, to the family in the book, just to the characters, to her dad even. I felt everything so much, and I didn't expect that because it's something that was unrelatable to me, but at the same time, Taylor is a very relatable character, very relatable teen character that I feel like a lot of teens could relate to, so I think just in that aspect, it just puts you in her shoes and you just react the same way she would react, and it just makes you cry. I was a crying mess most of this book. Most of the book. I watched some book talks on this, other people talking about the book, and a lot of people said, yeah, I cried when he died, or I cried when this part happened. I was a sobbing mess most of the book. I was sitting in my bed just the tears were just coming. Nothing was stopping the tears. I didn't even attempt to wipe them away because I was just such a mess. Such a mess. I can't stress that enough. And I did really like Taylor, even though there was parts of her that I found a little bit unlikable. Overall, she was a likable character because she's just relatable, as I was saying. There's just so many parts to her that make her just well-rounded as a character. And like I said about the book, it's the same with Taylor. If you don't like this about her, there's something else that you can kind of relate to her about. That's always a really great character to have as the main protagonist, because if you can relate to a book, odds are you're gonna like it more. At the beginning of the book, when Taylor says, you know, I haven't been back to the Poncos in 5 years, and Henry's gonna hate me, and Lucy's gonna hate me, and you don't know why yet, I'm like, okay, she must have done something terrible. Like, what did she do? Like, what did she steal? Like, who did she kill? Like, she was making it seem like such a big deal. And when you find out that it's like, she was dating Henry, Lucy liked Henry, she freaked out, and then she left. Girl, like, you were 12. Like, they're really mad at you because that happened when you were literally 12 years old. And now you're 17. And then you want to tell me that Henry and Lucy are still that mad at you? When she first sees Henry in the dock, he's, like, mad. Like, he does not want to see her. He does not want to talk to her. When she walks into the snack shack the first time and sees Lucy, Lucy does not want to see her. Like, they're both so mad. You'd think maybe they're like, oh, miss you, it's been 5 years. But no, their 12-year-old selves are still holding grudges against her. And I felt bad because Taylor really didn't do anything that detrimental. Like, it didn't seem like that big of a deal to me. And I mean, everything feels like a big deal when you're like 12, when you're young, but like 5 years have passed, so I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. I thought it had to have been something so much bigger that Taylor did, but it really wasn't. Overall, I really did enjoy all of the characters, even Henry and Lucy. I loved Lucy so much. I thought she was so funny. I thought she was just such a fun, like, best friend character. Like, everybody knows a Lucy. I personally couldn't relate to her very much, but I enjoyed her as a character, and I thought she was a realistic representation of a teenage girl, and I really enjoyed that. I loved Henry. I thought he was adorable, adorkable. He was really fun to read. I really enjoyed watching the progression of him and Taylor's relationship. I also really loved the whole family. Her dad is like my favorite book dad ever now. I absolutely loved him. Even her younger sister, Chelsea, I think is how you say it. Chelsea, she was enjoyable, and her brother Warren I thought was so funny. Like, I was dying about him and his Heinz ketchups because I was like, same, relatable. Also with him just saying random facts every 5 seconds, that was like interesting because I learned so much from this book, honestly. Like, Warren taught me everything I know. But I also just thought it was so funny, and I really enjoyed him as a character, and he reminded me a lot of my own brother, so I thought that was very fun and interesting to have in there. At the beginning of the book, when she first runs into Henry, and then it's just her kind of dilly-dallying around the house and around the town, and I'm like, when is she gonna run into him again? Like, it was the most entertaining thing. I was like, when will she see Henry? Like, at the ice cream place? Like, in the woods? Like, it was so funny. That's all I cared about at the beginning of the book. I was like, when will she run into him again? When will she run into Lucy? And then obviously she runs into Lucy at the snack shack where they're both working, and Lucy's obviously not having it. I loved the idea of them having this summer job together. It was very relatable for me. Last summer I actually worked the snack shack at a local baseball field for like Little League baseball kids, and I really enjoyed that, and it really reminded me like back to like making the drinks and getting the candy and like doing all that kind of snack shack stuff, like closing down the shop, opening. And it also reminds me of my current job at the movie theater because I work concessions all the time, and it's kind of similar, but I really liked that because it was just something I could relate to again. I loved the whole atmosphere of the town in general, all the little shops with the punny names, and, you know, having the big open woods and the lake and the beach, and it was just such a fun, cute little town. Reminds me of the places that I go when I go down the Cape, or I used to go to another beach town when I was younger. We used to stay the whole summer, and it just reminds me, like, cute little beach towns like that, because I spent most of my childhood summers living on the water, so I really enjoyed that aspect of the book as well. I totally called Henry's mom having left him and his family. I don't know how I called it, but I did. At the beginning of the book, when he says like, oh, we moved across the street, like this is my dad's like new bakery shop, it just kind of all seemed off to never see the mother around. So I was like, either they got a divorce or she left them. I wish we would have gotten a little bit more information with that, or just maybe even had seen the mother come back or something, but I mean, I thought it was fine. It didn't really have to be a finished plot, but it was interesting, and I can't believe I actually called that. Also, let's just take a moment to talk about the fact that Morgan Matson put her own dog into her book. Like, Murphy is Morgan Matson's dog, if you did not know, if you don't follow her on all of the social medias. Murphy is her actual dog. So the fact that Murphy was in this book literally gave me so much life, and I know Murphy's in The Unexpected Everything as well, so I'm excited to read that book as well, but so funny. I got such a kick out of Warren spilling all of the things on the dog to go see Wendy at the pet store. It was the funniest thing ever. And then finally, Taylor's just so done with it. She's like, will you go on a date with my brother? Like, please, please. So he stopped spilling stuff all over the dog. It was just so funny. One of my favorite scenes in the book is when Taylor's little sister has the sleepover with the girl next door, and they're like sitting on their phones, and she's like, what are you guys doing? So she calls up Lucy, and she's like, my sister's having a slumber party, but she's having it so wrong. Like, come over now. And they like fix the sleepover and like give them all of the snacks, and they play all of the games, and they're playing truth or dare, and her sister's like, yeah, I've gone to first base like with multiple guys, and Taylor's like about to like freak out on her, and Lucy's like, remind us again what first base is, and they're like, holding hands. I died. I really loved the whole relationship between Taylor and her father, and you know, them having their brunch dates and them just asking each other questions, them looking at his old records, and her getting Casablanca to be on the beach movie night. That was so beautiful, and I totally called that one as well. As soon as he was like, yeah, I never got to see it on the big screen though, I was like, I know where you can, I know where you're gonna, like the beach night movies. It made me sad to see that Taylor was kind of like, oh, I'm this awkward middle child, and like my sister gets along really well with my mom, and like my brother has this, and she didn't really understand that like her and her dad had a really great connection. And I almost thought that like her and her dad had that kind of relationship that she was jealous of her mom and her sister having, and I feel like she didn't realize that. I really appreciated how the story became less and less about Taylor's relationship with Henry and more about the relationship with her father, because I'd honestly worried me. I thought that the relationship with Henry was gonna kind of overshadow her father's death, and it was gonna make me not like the book as much as I did, but I was so happy that Morgan Matson had her like break up with Henry for that little bit. I mean, I feel like that was a little unnecessary, but just the fact that she got to, you know, be with her father in his last moments, and just having him as the main focus and Henry not being there to, you know, intrude on her in her last moments with her father, I thought that was so important. And I was really scared that Henry was going to be like the center of her attention, which I did not want, because it was really important for her to have those last moments with her father. I really enjoyed the grandfather in this book, and how Taylor kind of had looked at him as being just like this tough guy that she didn't really see a lot, but it turns out he's actually this really sweet man and shows her about the stargazing and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was really nice how they had him around the house, you know, the same time that her father was passing, because it kind of gave another father figure to the story, which was nice. And I just enjoyed that overall. I was such a mess during the meteor shower where she's like, my dad needs to see this, like he needs to come outside with me, and she convinces the nurse guy that's taking care of him to bring him outside for just 5 minutes, and she finally tells him that she loves him, and it was so emotional for me. I was a sobbing mess at this point. Like this part from the rest of the book on, like crying, like I couldn't stop crying, but it was just such a beautiful moment. And the fact that he died the next day, I was just like, whoo, like it was so sad, but it was done really, really well and respectfully. With the funeral at the end, when she finally gets up and speaks publicly and doesn't stutter over it, was so amazing. I didn't really think about that happening, but when it did, it was just so perfect, and I was so happy for her. I thoroughly enjoyed how at the beginning of the book, Taylor was kind of talking about her siblings, like, yeah, we're not really super close-knit together like some siblings are, but like, that's just how we are, it's fine. But at the end of the book, I feel like she really does have a deeper connection with Warren and Chelsea, and I really liked that. I really like to see siblings bonding and getting along and just being there for each other, supporting each other, and I thought it was really nice to have that added into the ending of the book. Can I also just say that at the end of the book, when she goes into the woods to find Henry to tell him that she actually wants to be with him, after reading that letter that her dad gave her, by the way, which is so sad, I was bawling my eyes out then too. I loved how he did that though, all of the different letters for the different occasions. It was so special. But after that, when she realizes that she needs to go get Henry back, and she goes into the woods and finds him, and she's like, so can I have a second chance? I was like, girl, this is already your second chance. Like, you're on a third. Like, this is your third chance. I don't know what you're talking about. And just overall, the ending of the book was super solid. How she goes and gets the sign, I knew that was going to happen too. I was like, they have to go get a sign, and the Soaring Robin sign was just so perfect and just a great way to end the story, and I loved it. I loved it so much, guys. I want to hear all of your opinions on the book, so let me know down below if you liked it, if you hated it, all of the things you want to tell me about this book. I just can't even tell you guys, my favorite Morgan Matson book as of now. Still haven't read The Unexpected Everything, but expect a book talk on that one coming soon. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like my book talks, make sure to give this one a thumbs up so I know. Subscribe to my channel if you've not already, but other than that, I hope you guys are having an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. Bye!